Want to give a bow back there? You don't know it, but there's many people in the cloud who practice with us a lot in that little hole. Hi. Yeah. So we're in our practice period. And we've been swimming around and fussing and enjoying these teachings of Dogen's. And some of you are just popping in, maybe for the first time. Is anyone here for the first time? Nice. Welcome. You brave individuals. Welcome. A lot of times we start with thank yous, and it's so appropriate, and thank our teachers, but this is so co-created. Who can I not thank? We had a harvest ceremony today that I'll tell you about, and so have to thank the corn, beans, and squash. Amazing. So thank you to all beings. There was a wonderful resident once who we visited recently, and we have this ceremony of when people are going to leave, and sometimes they say some words, and her first words were, "And I want to thank Shakyamuni Buddha." And I thought that was so cool. So we'll also thank Shakyamuni Buddha. So just a word about this study we've been doing, mainly so far Genjokoan, which one of the translations, and there are many, is actualizing the fundamental point. And this is one of Dogen's essays that pretty much has everything. So very potent, very poetic, sometimes puzzling and kind of backwards. And I would say that mainly he's expressing this understanding, for one thing, that we're fully capable of awakening, all of us, right here, in this moment, in this body. And part of the teaching is that this is so because we're already an expression of the totality. And this is one of the things that I'm going to talk about, and that, he tries to help us at least feel into, that we're arising on each moment as part of this whole fabric. And so what, and how do we live in that, and what does that mean? So we're in each moment already an expression of the whole of reality, and we're both this universal and individual. And when we express this universality and individuality in our activity, in our everyday life, that's Dogen's practice realization. So I'm a practical old gal, and I have a goal to take some of what you'll hear and really try to bring it down to earth and express the ordinariness, actually, of this, and how we practice or be in such a way. So there's a translation of Genjokoan of the title that a couple of our residents have brought up, and is so beautiful. That is the ordinary profundity. So you've got those two words together. The ordinary profundity of the present moment, becoming the present moment. So first, my attention, ordinary profundity, and I get that. And then present moment, becoming the present moment, took me a minute. Like, why not the present moment being the present moment? Well, because the present moment is always becoming the present moment. So just to touch in, last Wednesday, Shinzan, one of our fellow teachers, brought up an imagery that's really connected also to what I'm going to talk about, from the Genjo Koan, of the moon in a dewdrop. The moon, the profundity, the everything of awakening in a dewdrop. And the shortest part of the quote says, enlightenment is like the moon reflected in the water. The whole moon and the entire sky are reflected in dewdrops on the grass, or even in one drop of water. So this is something that you can see, right? You can see this. So enlightenment is like the moon reflected in the water in a dewdrop. So just a parenthesis around enlightenment, which is kind of a tricky word because it sounds like enlightenment, a thing that you go after. And that's not it at all, which I think is part of what we'll also bring up in looking at this tonight. So enlightenment is like the moon reflected in the water. The whole moon and the entire sky are reflected in dewdrops on the grass, or even in one drop of water. So you're that dewdrop. In each moment, a phenomenal expression of the whole. And I think we can kind of see that, and some teachers like Thich Nhat Hanh can make it really easy, and the bread I had for breakfast, and the wheat, and the everything included, right? So each moment, we're an expression of the whole. And in our practice, this awakening, or what we call enlightenment, is our activity coming from this expression of the whole. And it's here, and it couldn't be anywhere else, because where else could it be but here? So I want to expand on this by bringing up another aspect of Genjokoan. And I jumped into this a couple months ago because I had a conversation with a resident, and I brought up this phrase, Dharma position. And he said, what's Dharma position? And I said, I can't explain it. So this talk is kind of coming out of that. But it's a very helpful, potent expression. So Ju-hoi is Dharma position. And it actually is used a lot in various teachings and a lot in Dogen, but its origins is in the Tendai sect, actually. This idea of a Dharma position. Another translation is phenomenal expression. We'll start with one definition. So this is Cause's definition of Dharma position. The unique, non-repeatable stage of a thing's existence at any given moment. So this unique arising, Dharma position, Dharma position, Dharma position, Dharma position, on every moment, like arising uniquely as itself, right? And part of this concept, which makes it so fascinating, is that it also includes and emphasizes the teaching that each thing, when it's completely and fully what it is, manifests the absolute. So unique and everything included. That kind of that intersection as Dharma position. It's a teaching that's all over the place. Every time I chanted in the last month, I'd go, oh, it's that. Like, for example, in this Sandokai, which is the identity, our translation is the identity of the relative and the absolute. We say, all spheres, every sense and field intermingle even as they shine alone. Horizontal, vertical. Interacting, right? Even as they merge, yet keeping their expressions of their own. This is the same teaching. So for us, according with our Dharma position or occupying it is this practice enlightenment of finding your place where you are. And finding our place both as just this unique one and finding our place in the relationality of our connection to everything. And it's completely transformative if I'm in both those kind of places rather than over here, the world according to Nanette, you're out there, and that's what I'm rolling. You know, that's my reality. So it's this being in that intersection, unity or oneness being the horizontal and individuality being the vertical. So, okay, why might an understanding of Dharma position be important? And how does it relate to my activity in the world? This is what we always care about, I hope. So Dharma positions have particularity, but no fixed identity, because it's every moment arising, and no fixed outcome. So when you're completely according with your Dharma position at any given time, and when you're meeting that moment completely, and according with everything that's co-creating that moment, open, receptive, this makes it a moment of possibility. That's what, is arising, because it's not the me that I carried myself forward into the moment. It's the me meeting and maybe I could say collaborating with everything that's there in the field. So what could be more important than each moment of this awake experience being a moment of complete possibility? And also, what that means is that our smallest action, our smallest word, goes out infinitely, and can have a profound effect. And in the moment, we don't feel it, but many times we'll see in our lives how a moment or of love and clarity or of stupidity has an effect, and rolls forward. So one of our commentaries on Genjokoan is Shinshu Roberts, and she writes a lot about this Dharma position. And she says this: a Dharma position has a past, present, and future, just as we do, but it's freed from being defined by that past, present, and future. Each Dharma position is particular and independent. We're aware of past experiences and future desires when actualizing our enlightened mind, but such ideas don't obstruct our ability to respond fully to the totality of each situation as it is. So we're already in the totality, like we're right now, this is a situation, and we're in it, and we're in the totality of it together. However, to respond in such a way that's appropriate, I have to stop and attend and know where I am. So this non-obstructive awareness is important. This is Shinshu again. Because of the independent nature of a Dharma position, which allows us to choose how we will respond to them. We're not caught up in some fatalistic, predetermined course of action. So that's why this is cool. That's why this is important. So our practice and realization is in meeting the moment and in our activity. And Shinzan talked a lot, brought that up really clearly last week. In our activity every moment. So now more from the Genjokoan that's aligned, that's part of this Dharma position teaching. When you see forms, this is Dogen, when you see forms or hear sounds fully engaging body and mind, you grasp things directly. Fully engaging body and mind. This is what is this like complete attending to the wide field, to the whole, to what's there in the whole. And it goes on, when you find your place where you are, practice occurs, actualizing the fundamental point. When you find your way at this moment, practice occurs, actualizing the fundamental point. For the place, the way, is neither large nor small, neither yours nor others. Neither yours, nor others, nor others. So finding your place where you are is just exactly occupying your Dharma position at this intersection of the individual and the universal. And I think how we do this, because speaking for myself, mostly I don't. I'm just kind of crashing through with my, energy and what I think the situation is. How we do this is stopping and seeing. So how do you enter a room? How do you enter the kitchen at Upaya? How do you step into the zendo? How do you step into your parents' house that's all fraught with a million tons of history, or your workplace maybe? And this is another line from Dogen, but think of this how you step in. To carry yourself forward and experience myriad things. Oh, there's Krish and that, and there's this, and this. Some of you are wearing black. Is delusion. That myriad things come forth and experience themselves is awakening. So there's no separation there. We're part of those myriad things that are experiencing themselves as, this individual and as this totality. So we have a little bit of a cultural bias in the West, particularly maybe in the United States. That's what I know the best. And we have this cultural bias of our individuality. So we mostly are confused by what it means when we talk about being ourselves. And particularly because the teachings tell us to forget ourselves, but also become ourselves. So I think our confusion about what it means to be ourselves is basically that we leave out be yourself according to the place and circumstance. We just bring in the horizontal and we forget about the according to the place and circumstance. So Suzuki Roshi, there's a new book of his teachings and it's called Becoming Yourself, interestingly. So I turned to that because I was thinking about this becoming ourselves, forgetting ourselves, what are we talking about? And there's a chapter called Harmony, which I'll come back to because it's perfect for that chapter. And in that chapter, he says, the point is to find our position moment after moment and to live with people moment after moment according to the place and the circumstance. So, Dharma position. And doing this, finding our position moment after moment and living with people moment after moment according to the place and circumstance. This is our practice. This is our way of cultivating a way of being in the world that's flexible and open and attentive. So in this chapter on harmony, I'm going to bring in a couple of really basic examples about harmony and individuality and see if it helps. In this chapter by Suzuki Roshi on harmony, he uses the example of stones in a garden. He was a stone person. He loved arranging stones, and he created at Tassajara a stone garden, and he would be out there in his robes, with these enormous stones that no one quite knew how he could move around. But in writing about that, he says, okay, stones in a garden. Each individual stone is expressing itself. And he has this beautiful, I didn't want to read it all, but long stones are solemn and profound. Round stones, what do they express? Perfection. Stones with moss have this soft, mystical feeling. So you have these stones, and each is an expression. And the gardener creates harmony. The gardener has to see the relationality in all those individual expressions and create harmony. So another very down-to-earth example, when Shohaku Okumura talks about this, he uses the example of cooking for the community. This is something here in Upaya that we can relate to quite well. So cooking for the community is a personal practice, right? And practice for the community. And also in accord with the circumstances. So what's in the pantry? So he says this, we have to find out how we can best serve the community. Yet we have to do this through our own personal action and responsibility. We're completely independent, while at the same time, we're fully part of the community. So how can we actualize both sides of our lives with one action? And he says, this is really the basic point of our lives. How can we actualize both sides of our lives with one action? This is the basic point of our lives. And obvious to all this description, there's not a formula for how we can do this in the kitchen or anywhere, because each moment is its own situation. So we have to find our way. And we do this by receiving and opening to the whole of the situation. rather than coming in with a fixed view. Here's another line from Genjokoan that slips right in here. When you see forms or hear sounds fully engaging body and mind, you grasp things directly. And Dogen gives us another example of fully engaging body and mind in Instructions to the Cook. So listen to this one. Handle even one leaf of green in such a way that it manifests the body of the Buddha. This, in turn, allows the Buddha to manifest through the leaf. So your handling of the leaf of grass in such a way allows the Buddha to manifest through the leaf. Because you're aware of what you're touching. I was thinking, about this in our harvesting as well, handling each thing that was this incredible fruit of our garden. And he goes on, this is a power, this handling of a leaf of green in this way. This is a power you cannot grasp with your rational mind. It operates freely according to the situation in a most natural way. It operates freely according to the situation in a most natural way. So again, full attunement, fully according, not imposing your views and opinions and attitudes and prejudices. And so this takes this quiet mind so that you can receive what's there and be in harmony with the reality and the totality of the situation. I'm trying to decide where to go next. So I'm going to go back a little bit to share something from Shinshu Roberts in this area that we're exploring of when you become yourself, at that moment, everything's included. She says, when we include everything in our understanding, we're more cognizant of the intrinsic value of each thing. And we're more aware of the place each being or event has in relationship to us. We don't exclude anything, recognizing that everything is already present. So, what gets in the way of our fully expressing our Dharma position is this very most basic delusion of the self as an independently existing self. And it causes us a lot of trouble because we're out of harmony when we're not attuned to the fact that everything is included. So, returning to the Genjo Koan with another image. When you ride in a boat and watch the shore, you might assume that the shore is moving. But when you keep your eyes closely on the boat, you can see that the boat moves. Similarly, if you examined myriad things with a confused body and mind, you might suppose that your mind and nature are permanent. When you practice intimately and return to where you are, it will be clear that nothing at all has an unchanging self. When you practice intimately and return to where you are. So our Zazen practice is practicing intimately, emptying ourselves out so that there's space, just like stopping and seeing in a situation. So there's space for receptivity and attunement, and returning again and again to just what's here. My first teacher, Catherine Thanis, talking about that, said, we sit Zazen to realize there's a deeper awareness existing beneath the active mind. It is the mind of clear observation that witnesses our life from the shore of ease, from a posture of unprejudiced attention. Not thinking, or Zazen, is how the universe thinks. We are this undivided, fabricated movement of energy in the universe. Let me read that again. Not thinking, or Zazen, is how the universe thinks. We are this undivided, unfabricated movement of energy in the universe. So when we move off the cushion into everyday life, we most often lose this posture of unprejudiced attention. And our habitual mind begins to obscure and add and impute and kind of reset ourselves in this stance of self-centeredness. The problem with all this imputing, making stuff up, as we say in our family, we say it a little bit differently, but I'm going to say making stuff up. We impute higher and lower and more important and worthy and less important and less worthy and like and don't like and should and shouldn't be like this. And it's extra. And it separates us, or we separate ourselves, and it obscures our original wisdom. And we can become very unskillful when we act from this. And sometimes this whole thing of Dharma position is really simple. Like in the Zendo, you're in a role in that moment. That's your Dharma position. So when your role is Fukudo, you strike the Han to call the community to the Zendo. When your role at a certain moment is to be the officiant, you bow, you offer incense on the behalf of the community. If you're Tenzo, you plan the meals and so on. And this is our practice. This is the way we can create harmony. So right now, if my Dharma position is to be one of the guiding teachers in the Zendo, maybe I'll ask you to not blow your nose in the Zendo. But I won't go in the kitchen and say, cut the carrots differently, right? And I think, again, that it's so much our conditioning that we see high and low, better than or worse than. Here's a quote for from a Chan teacher, Sheng Yen. All dharmas are equal, but each dharma has its own place. One dharma is not better or higher or closer than another dharma. But each dharma has its own position, its own direction, its own causes and conditions. So what if we just show up wholeheartedly and awake, attend to the dharma position where we are, and don't add anything? There are lines from the Jewel Mirror Samadhi, and I'll read them in a second, but I was kind of reluctant because they're very culturally influenced in a way that makes us uncomfortable. But the message is very clear. Ministers serve their lords. Children obey their parents. Ugh. But yes, ministers serve their lords. Children obey their parents. Not obeying is not filial, and not serving is no help. Parents take care of their children. Parent is a dharma position, and we also know that each moment of parenting is a dharma position, and if we don't know that, we and our children will be in trouble. Because now I'm a parent of 40 and 50-year-olds, and it's a little bit different than my parenting previously. I think a mundane way to put this is that we are always context dependent, always in a web of relationality. And each dharma position in each moment expresses our individuality and this web of relationality. So I want to share with this lovely gathering and this lovely gathering that I know is with us something from today. It's interesting. This is something that I had already put in my talk, but then we had our harvest ceremony. So it was quite beautiful. But we were in the Three Sisters Garden at Upaya. So each stalk of corn, each fat, enormous, beautiful squash, just its own unique self, unique phenomenal expression, and the corns and beans and squash and humans totally co-dependent, arising together, listening to each other, the beans finding their way up the corn stalks, and the dirt and the worms and the wind, creating together this incredible, full garden. So we were able to express our gratitude and care and show respect for these beautiful fruits that are the fruits of this harmony, this kind of harmony. So this is from Robin Wall Kimmerer. When we speak of the living world as kin, we are also called to act in new ways, so that when we take those lives, we must do it in such a way that brings honor to the life that it is taken and honor to the ones receiving it. The honorable harvest, a practice both ancient and urgent, applies to every exchange between people and the earth. Its protocol is not written down, but if it were, it would look something like this. Ask permission of the ones whose lives you seek. Abide by the answer. Never take the first. Never take the last. Harvest in a way that minimizes harm. Take only what you need and leave some for others. Use everything that you take. Take only what is given to you. Share it as the earth has shared with you. Be grateful. Reciprocate the gift. Sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever. And this is the action that we would naturally take when we find our place where we are. So I'm also going to share the reflection that was shared with us. And this poem was spoken at the end of our harvest ceremony, and the author is close in to our community, but by request will remain unnamed. And I'll end with this. May the hummingbirds, the ravens, the deer, the squash bugs, and the bees live in harmony with the three sisters. May we steward them with humility and honesty about the cycles of life. May we care for this garden as we do our own bodies. May we respect the spirits of non-human beings and recognize their power. May we remember our interconnection with all peoples and all things. May we atone for forgetting. May we atone for the life we take in the interest of a fruitful harvest. May we live in forgiveness and awareness and peace. And may our attention to this garden contribute to repair, forward. And may our attention to this garden contribute to repair, forward, and backward in time. We offer these efforts for the benefit of all beings, especially the original inhabitants of this land. May it be so.